Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Griffin, and I'm a filmmaker based out of Orange County, California. And today we're going to be reviewing the Bright Tangerine Cage for the Canon C500 Mark II, C300 Mark III, and C200. So if I'm being totally transparent, up until semi-recently, I basically thought cages were kind of useless. I thought they just basically added a bunch of extra weight to your camera, and there's like no reason to use them. As my production started growing though, I basically found myself in more and more situations that would actually benefit from using a cage. So instead of kind of taking you guys through like spec by spec, detail by detail of everything about the Bright Tangerine Cage, I will do this. I'll link my friend Carlos's video, who's got an outstanding review of the cage. But I'm also going to take you through a few of the circumstances that I find myself in as a filmmaker that greatly benefit from using a cage. So situation number one is run and gun shooting. One cool thing that's unique to Bright Tangerine's cage is you can adjust the top handle position in relation to the body. So you can slide it forward or backwards, which is really cool. And you can do that all with just one single twist on the operator side of the camera. If you're using like a really small lens, like I have this Helios 44-2 lens that I like to use, and then sometimes I'll be using that, but I'm also using a V-mount on my camera. So my camera is really back heavy. What I can do is I can slide the top handle back to accommodate for that. And now I've got a perfectly balanced rig instead of having to fight that weight. And these things make a pretty big difference when you're working an 8 or 10 hour day and you're operating handheld the whole time. It's a huge thing if your camera's not balanced. Another thing that I mentioned in my original C500 Mark II review was there's not a great place to mount a shotgun mic on the body. That's one of the things they kind of did away with. One thing that's really cool with the top plate from Bright Tangerine is it's got this airy rosette on the right side, and you can buy this part from Small Rig that fits perfectly in there. It doesn't rotate at all, and you can mount your shotgun right there on the body, just like you could on the C200. So I find that being like the perfect compact setup. Another thing with the top handle that I like is it's got a bunch of area rosette points around for mounting your monitor in all sorts of different configurations. The first setup I like utilizes this part from Small Rig, and you can basically tilt it up or down just depending on your shooting height of the camera. And then the second one is with this magic arm. This is cool if you want to face the monitor towards you when you're filming in front of the camera, like for a YouTube video, for example. Or alternatively, if you want to position it off to the side, if you're shooting on your shoulder, or if you're on the side of the camera and you're operating from there, it makes it a really good setup as well. Okay, so situation number two is when I'll be on a commercial shoot. So when I'm in a commercial setting, the best thing about the cage is it provides this super rigid platform to build your camera up. So if I'm gonna attach, say like a wireless follow focus, it can hold the 15mm rails, and it's gonna position the rails at the correct height. So I didn't know this before, but there's actually a specific height that the rails are supposed to be in relation to the lens. So that's why, like, if you notice the cage, it sort of positions the rails a little bit lower in relation to the lens. And what's cool about the Bright Tangerine Cage, because it's specifically made for these cameras, is it puts it at the right height. Okay, so situation three is studio style shooting. This is basically where your camera is going to be on a tripod all day. A lot of times if I'm in a studio setting, what's really cool about the cage is it allows you to basically counterbalance much easier than you would be able to if you were just using, like, say, a Manfrotto base plate. And you can slide the whole camera way forward or way back on this big airy style dovetail. And this allows a lot more counterbalance options. And once you're ready to go off the tripod, you can basically just throw it all the way forward, open it up, and pick it up for hand-tilt shooting. Okay, so situation four is when you want to have a really compact setup with your camera package. There's been a few situations when I've been filming out of, like, say, a helicopter or out of the back of a vehicle, and I really need to make my rig as small as possible. To basically do that, one thing that's really cool is you can take the top handle off, and the top handle actually uses an airy style dovetail as well. So with a couple of twists here, you can just basically pull the whole top package off and then have this other one on standby ready to go. And you can basically make your camera like 8 or 9 inches shorter overall. So when you want to have a really compact setup, you can basically do that. And you can do it really quick. So like a lot of times when you're on set, you really need to be operating quickly. If you can just slot that in, and in literally like 10 seconds, you can go from your full setup to this really compact setup. Okay, so situation number five is using the cage with my C200. What's pretty cool for someone like me that Bright Tangerine did is they made the cage standard for the C200, C300 Mark III, and C500 Mark II. And the only thing that's different between the C300 and C500 cages versus the C200 is the side plates. So while you can't use the same side plates, You can pick up an extra set if you want, like I did, or alternatively, what you can do is you can just use the top plate and the base plate. And this is really cool. So like for someone that is like maybe on a C200 right now, probably way better off just investing with Bright Tangerine the first time around, because what I originally did is I got this top handle and top plate from Wooden Camera, and then I got this base plate from Small Rig, and I was like sort of piecing it all together. Well, what happened was when it came time to upgrade, none of those parts carried over. So they couldn't upgrade and fit on the C500 Mark II. So you basically had to rebuy all those things. So, I mean, I spent like, I don't know, probably close to $500 altogether. And that was basically money down the drain because none of those parts carried over to the C500 Mark II when I upgraded. So maybe you're on like a C200 right now and you're thinking, okay, I want to upgrade to a C300 Mark III or C500 Mark II next. What's really cool is if you invest in like Bright Tangerine's base kit, for example, those parts will carry over to your next camera. So you won't have to go rebuy those parts, and that won't be money down the drain like it was for me. If I could do it all again, I would 100% do that the first time. I sort of have this philosophy like buy it once and be done. And that was one of those things where I was sort of trying to cut corners with investing in rails and investing in a top handle and a top plate for the C200 when I first bought it. So I would just highly suggest going that route. What's really cool with the C200 setup too is because you can adjust the rails with one single twist on the base plate, you can basically put your V-mount right up next to the camera and you can keep a really compact setup here. But then when you need to access your audio controls, you basically untwist it, slide it back, and then you can adjust your audio or access the SD card slots. So I just think it's a really brilliant design from Bright Tangerine, and they did a really nice job. Definitely looks great. It's for sure the best looking cage, but that wasn't enough for me. I want to know, like, how does it work in the real world? Like, does it actually help you for your shooting? Because, you know, it's an investment, right? But for me, it makes a huge difference in the way I'm able to shoot. So I would highly recommend the Bright Tangerine cage. So anyways, guys, thanks for sticking around and watching this video. If you like this kind of video, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.